My friends, I'm not given to wild, unsupported statements. And I tell you that we must evacuate this planet immediately.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
This time we're covering Superman the movie.
This first Superman movie stars Christopher Reeve as the superhero, and we see his journey to become the Man of Steel who must defeat the villainous Lex Luthor and save Metropolis.
Of course. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and we'll get you this future podcast and we'll pause videos.
Yes, thank you for subscribing, for sharing our videos, and for joining us. We really appreciate you so much. So this was a big deal back in 1978 because there hadn't been a theatrical Superman movie up to that time. You had the television series that starred George Reeves, no relation of course to Christopher Reeve, that was in black and white and aired on TV.
Right.
And that was the biggest thing you'd had up to that time.
Right.
So this was a major coup for DC as well as for theater.
Right.
And having a real superhero movie that starred a major DC character, I should say. Because you had, I think, Flash Gordon and things like that that had been out, but not a Superman movie.
Right. The only other time that happened later on was with Tim Burton's Batman movie, which ended up causing yet another superhero frenzy at the time. So this was the first to get that ball rolling for DC movies.
Now, at that time, this was the most expensive film made with a budget of $55 million.
What? Seriously?
At that time, yes. And Disney makes movies that cost that much now, and they don't think that's even worth it. Forget it. Let's put it this way. Disney makes movies now that cost 4 times that amount, and they fail.
Yep.
Okay, so during that time, Ilya Selkin had the idea of making the Superman film, and the couple bought the rights to the character in 1974. And it had a pretty big return at the box office, earning over $300 million.
Wow, yeah, you can see this was such a huge success, and it really earned it because this is one of the most memorable DC movies ever made, regardless if it's animated or live action. A lot of people remember as this being the quintessential Superman movie. This is the best one, you can't top it. Even when people have different favorites throughout the years, this is considered the best one and untoppable.
Definitely. So for that time, you had an all-star cast. You had Marlon Brando as Jor-El, Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, Christopher Reeve, of course, as Clark Kent Superman, Ned Beatty as Otis, Lex Luthor's bumbling henchman. I don't know if that's canonical or not.
Right.
You had Jackie Cooper as Perry White. You had, look for a couple more, Glenn Ford as Jonathan Kent, Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, Valerie Perrine as Eve Teschmacher, again, not knowing if that is canon or not.
Right.
And you just had a whole lot of people who appeared in here. And one reason you can say that this is the favorite is because Reeve's performance really was just an amazing performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to you one time about actors who portray Superman. And one thing to date, not counting the new one DC has hired because we haven't seen him yet, they all have in common is that part of their own personality comes through.
Right.
Now, for Christopher Reeve, they said he was like a Boy Scout. He had this soft, genuine, sensitive part of his personality that comes through in his performance.
Right.
Not only as Clark Kent, but also as Superman.
Right.
And you can't help but love his Superman.
Right. And he says it's become important throughout the years, whether it be live action or animated, TV show, or a big budget movie, they all seem to have that in common. And usually when people try to change it, it never turns out well. Much like with Batman, they have a formula that works, don't change it. And this one was the epitome of don't fix what isn't broken.
Definitely. So you had as the plot that the canonical story, I should say, Krypton was being destroyed. Jor-El and his wife, depending on what name she had in the movie, sent him off so that he would not be killed.
Right.
And he lands on Earth, and he's found by the kids.
Right.
And murders their son. And in here, unfortunately, the dad, Jonathan Kent, has a heart attack and dies.
Which, like, was the saddest part of the movie. It was just like he didn't need that tragedy in there. It's set bad enough that they've taken out both of his parents on CW and other versions.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have the introduction of the first live-action theatrical Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman,
Right.
who did a stellar performance, and whom other Lex Luthor actors, I guess you have to say, who portray him,
Right.
kind of use him as a base in their
Right.
portrayal of Lex Luthor. Now, I'm guessing in the new movie he's going to be probably a lot more darker than he's ever been.
Right.
We'll have to wait and see. Then you have Margot Kidder as the first theatrical Lois Lane. And
Right.
she's the sassy 70s, I'm a woman. And she dresses in a more, I won't say professional style, but more like a menswear style with her clothing.
Right. The
She still wears
blazer.
skirts, but yes. And he falls for her, of course, because that's canonical.
Right.
And you have a chemistry that comes through their performance all throughout the movie. And I
Right.
think that's one reason that this was another favorite.
Right. And as you're watching the movie, you know, sometimes people say they have this sort of cozy feeling or relatable feeling when they watch certain movies because the acting writing is done so well. Well, I think this one definitely does a good example of that because some of the best versions of Superman have where you like him both as Clark Kent and as Superman. And one thing that's become popular more recently, and I think they finally realized it from this version, is that Superman kind of acts the same almost whether he's Clark Kent or he's Superman. He has his awkwardness, he has his shyness, he has the Boy Scout thing,
Yeah.
and he lets some of it show as Superman, but he has to put on the face of someone who's like all might, always there, always serious and protecting everybody. And then while he's Clark Kent, that's more of who he really is in terms of just being relaxed on anybody and not worrying about the powers.
Definitely. And you have the special effects of him flying through the air, which during that time were fantastic. We look at it now,
Right.
but you can't look at the lens that we see now with all the advancement we have in special effects. You have to look at it in terms of what was possible in 1978 and this being made. And in the second movie, of course, you see him fly with Lois Lane. You see
Right.
him fight with the villains, the three villains. I can't remember their name. They come through. But as each movie progressed, you had a little more special effects that are being upgraded.
Yes.
But this was really great for 1978 when you watch
Definitely.
it. And it's still entertaining. It still holds up.
Yeah.
And if you compare it to what DC has now, which is much darker, in
Right.
terms of the animated movies they've made in the past and the live action ones they're making like Justice League,
Right.
this is really a wholesome, sweet, clean, family-friendly movie that
Right.
has stood the test of time through the decades. And it's really great that you can go back and watch it. It was Rascal's first time seeing this movie.
Yes,
I've
years
seen it
ago.
multiple times with family and friends. And watching it with her, it still was a fun watch. It still was a joy to watch. And I still was happy when I finished watching it. It
Right.
left you in a good mood. And it had a happy ending,
Right.
which is missing from so many of the superhero films, Disney, Marvel, that are made
Right.
now.
Right. And maybe one day he's coming to learn something from this, going back to a lot of these old movies from DC and other companies, that look at what you did and look what worked. Look how successful Superman is. So it can still be talked about to this day, celebrating the anniversary of the film or the act or the release or something, as if it was just yesterday or a really fond memory. You just follow this pattern of Superman is proved to be just so successful, and like you said, it's one of the most likable versions of Superman and the story.
Definitely. So this movie was originally released, on December 10th, 1978. It was a critical and financial success, as we mentioned, earning over $300 million. It was the second highest grossing release of the year. And Christopher Reeve received so much praise for his performance, and the musical score received a lot of praise.
Yes.
On top of that, the score was nominated for Best Film Editing, I should say the movie, Best Film Editing, Best Music Original Score, and Best Sound at the 51st Academy Awards. It also received a Special Achievement Academy Award for Visual Effects. Again,
Ooh.
back in 1978, this was groundbreaking.
Right.
Special effects. And also sci-fi fantasy storytelling. So the film has a legacy that has endured. Still, as we mentioned, one of Hollywood's most popular superhero movies,
Yes.
as well as a superhero franchise for Superman. And in 2017, Superman was actually selected for preservation by the Library of Congress's National Film Registry.
Oh, wow. That's a really high honor for your film to be put in there.
So it's just wonderful that we finally got to see this movie together, and that it's still entertaining, still joyful, and he's considered one of the all-time coolest heroes in pop culture.
Right.
Voted that in 2009. He's still very popular, and even though they've taken Superman through some changes, some good, some not so good,
Right.
this is a character that is still loved, and we really have Christopher Reeve to thank for the performance he gave in bringing this character to life and making him so beloved. And as we mentioned, he's the first person you think of when you think of a live-action Superman.
Right.
So if you've seen Superman, the movie, for 1978, let us know what you think in the comments below. Have you seen it recently? Does it hold up to the test of time for you? Tell us what you think. And if you haven't seen it, you really should. It's a joy to watch. And with the superhero movies that have been coming out now that aren't so great, you will just be joyful in watching this and seeing what started all of it
Right.
in terms of big box office superhero movies.
Right. And if you don't already subscribe for updates to the reviews for anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Yes, and thank you so much for subscribing, sharing this video, letting us talk to you and share with you things that we love and some things you don't love so much. And remember, as always, you are
Our specials. Thanks so much for watching Rascal Entertainment.
and our Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.